Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith TB. It's time for News Central now, and here are the top stories at this hour. Protests break out in Ibadan after police officers chasing suspected internet fraudsters allegedly shoot students heading for WAEC exams. Trade Union Congress pickets Finance Ministry in Abuja over unpaid allowances and poor welfare practices. And at least 58 unidentified corpses retrieved from Libyan hospital after militia leader's death in clashes. Details shortly. And we'll begin with news from Oyo State as protests broke out in Ibadan after a secondary school student was reportedly shot dead by a stray police bullet while on his way to sit his West African Senior School certificate examination on Tuesday. The incident occurred near the Welfare Hospital area in Alakia, Oyo State. According to eyewitness reports, the student, whose name has not yet been officially released, was in his father's car when police officers opened fire on a fleeing vehicle. Sources on social media allege that officers were in pursuit of a suspect and attempted to disable the suspect's car by shooting at the tires. In the process, one of the bullets struck the student. He was immediately rushed to Welfare Hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival by medical personnel. The incident has sparked outrage, especially as it comes just a day after another high-profile case of alleged police misconduct in Lagos. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has announced that it will release results on Wednesday for 379,997 candidates who retook the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. The receipt followed a widespread outrage over mass failures which JAMB attributed to technical and human errors, especially in Lagos and Southeast states. Over 1.5 million of the 1.9 million original candidates scored below 200, sparking national concern. JAMB's registrar, Professor Oloyede, however, took responsibility for the errors and rescheduled the exams. Lawmakers from the Southeast condemned the process, demanding Oloyede's resignation, citing poor communication and clashes with WAEC exams. The caucus also called for the cancellation of the 2025 UTME and a fresh exam to ensure fairness and restore confidence in the admissions process. And now to union matters. Members of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria on Tuesday protested at the Federal Ministry of Finance in Abuja over what they described as lack of welfare, allowance arrears, and other emoluments for workers. Now, the workers locked the gate to the ministry, preventing vehicles from going in and out of the premises and forcing workers who came to work to return home, noting that their protest was about months of unpaid allowances dating back to January of 2025. They vowed to continue the protest on Wednesday if their demands were not met.
Yeah, we don't really know why you guys are here. Coming here, they refuse speaking with us, no placard inside. Why are you here, sir?
No, but this is your opinion, because there are placards inside. Except if you need glasses and I can borrow you my own. Now, we are here because of withheld IGR accruing to NNRA. However, due to reasons we don't know, Oga, we are in a jet age. If you cannot reconcile the meaning of NRA.
And joining us now from Abuja is Joshua Emarai, our correspondent who covered this picketing live. Joshua, the workers say they will return on Wednesday to continue the protest if nothing has changed. Is that going to happen? Do you see them coming back to the streets on Wednesday?
Yeah, good evening to you, Judith. I really doubt the possibility of that happening because earlier on, the permanent secretary in charge of special duties at the Federal Ministry of Finance in Abuja actually brandished an approval to the demonstrators outside. And according to his words, he said that the Minister of Finance has actually acceded to their demands, and he hopes that before tomorrow they will get good news as well as prayers into their inboxes.
Speaking of prayers and good news, has the ministry or anyone on behalf of the government said anything yet? Especially the Ministry of Finance.
The Permanent Secretary actually came out and addressed the mammoth crowd at the front of the Federal Ministry of Finance today, and he assured them that the minister was on top of their case personally, that he only had to come in place of the minister who was not at the ministry at that particular point in time, attending to official duties, and hopefully they will get good news from the ministry.
Yeah, were there any specifics as to regard their demands? What were the specifics regarding meeting their demands given the protests?
Well, one of the major things they demanded was for their allowances and as well as emoluments being paid to them. According to what they said earlier, they had some emoluments being owed by them from February this year, the beginning of February this year, down to this moment. And it is as a result of the Federal Ministry of Finance withholding the IGR of the Nigerian Nuclear Research Authority, and as well as other IGR that were accrued from other means. You must understand that their counterparts in the oil sector were paid. This is one of the things that fueled their grievances that made them come out today and picket the Federal Ministry of Finance. We are hopeful that this will be resolved before the 48-hour given deadline. And we hope that things will return back to normal.
Well, we hope so too, Joshua. Many thanks. We appreciate you for the updates. Joshua Marayi there, reporter from Abuja. Let's now switch to judicial matters, shall we? The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, has tasked judges of the lower courts to uphold integrity and the ethical standards of the judiciary. The Chief Judge of the Apex Court gave the charge while inducting newly appointed magistrates and judges of Sharia and customary courts at the National Judicial Institute in Abuja. Our correspondent Joshua Marayi has the details. We'll bring you the report in our subsequent bulletins. In the meantime, the former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has called for a reform of the Nigerian judiciary, accusing it of widespread corruption and biases. Speaking at the Nigerian Bar Association NBA Watery Branch Law Week in Abuja on Monday, he claimed that many judges and lawyers have compromised their duty to deliver justice. El-Rufai expressed concern over delays in justice delivery and rulings often perceived as influenced by external forces. He also condemned the increasing use of ex parte orders in political disputes and accused some lawyers of manipulating the judicial process for partisan gain. And with the rainy season always comes bad news, doesn't it? 3 among 26 infected people have been reported dead following cholera outbreak in Bokkos local government area of Plateau State. Now, the Plateau State epidemiologist, Dr. Maren Job, who confirmed the development in New Central and Jos, said cholera thrives in unhygienic areas or environments, leaving infected people with uncontrollable passing of very watery stool. While the doctor maintains that early presentation in the hospital can save lives, members of the public are urged to maintain high level of safe and environmental hygiene. Now, earlier, former governor, we told you earlier that the former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has called for a reform of the Nigerian judiciary, accusing it of widespread corruption and biases. Now, to discuss this further, we're joined by Dr. Sam Amadi, he's Executive Director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Dr. Amadi, many thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on. I mean, the former governor, Nasir El-Rufai, has accused the Nigerian judiciary of widespread corruption and biases. What is your perspective on these allegations or accusations?
Well, I think, first, thank you for having me. I think those accusations are not far-fetched. They are not wild. They kind of know what the average citizen would think about. It does not mean that the judges are all corrupt. I mean, there are many exemplary judges, men and women of integrity, who are both knowledgeable and professional and display the most excellent characteristics of a judge. But generally, I mean, if you look at the reports of the NJC itself, as much as people may not like the rigor or the extensive oversight the NJC, but its report suggests a high degree of corruption because NJC continues to sanction judges. Again, if you look at the index, Afrobarometer, the major index for democracy and perception, 75% of Nigerians, as of 2023, do not have confidence in the judiciary at all. After the 2023 election, and now, I guess that percentage could get to 80%. So there's a clear evidence-based public distrust of credibility of the quality and the output of the judicial process. As far as into election has been one of those major drain on the credibility of the judiciary. So El-Rufai's statement, coming from somebody of that high level, might look like a blistering attack on the judiciary, but I think more or less it's not wide or far-fetched.
And El-Rufai, he highlighted the increasing use of ex parte orders in political disputes. How do you think this practice affects the integrity of the judicial system?
Well, it impacts negatively. I mean, there have been efforts in the past by the Chief Justice of the Federation and some other presiding officers of Federal Court and others to control the abuse of ex parte order. Now, the thing about ex parte is that because there are orders courts make without hearing, it means that more often than not, they are usually for very rare situations where there could be very irreversible damage caused to the other party, or there's need to restrain actions that are ongoing that perhaps cannot be recreated if the matter, after hearing of the dispute. But now it's being deployed in a very, very damaging and corrupt manner. For example, I don't know if I talked to us about that, about phone shopping. So people go around, matter is nowhere. They go to Gombe, get perhaps a friendly judge or a corrupt judge or somebody that paid for issues an ex parte order, stopping action, sometimes at large. And they wake up in the morning, there's an order from a judge. You are stopped, and then the opponent gains advantage. So because it's not, and oftentimes the bad one is that these orders, there are no urgency that suggest what should be issued. So the judge could have demanded for next day hearing with the other party there to even argue why the order should not be granted. If you look at the US in other jurisdictions, we see that all the time with these Trump immigration orders. That when people go to court sometimes, the judge gives 24 hours. Say, tomorrow, let other parties come. Let me hear why I should not enter this order. They don't even make any effort to see if there can be a 1-2 day turnaround when the other opponent comes before you issue very damning order. Ex parte. I think the ex parte order has been the most corrupt approach the corrupt judges have used to disgrace, the idea of justice and to undermine fair, equitable hearing in court. So I think if it's correct, it has been the worst hit, and the presiding officers have tried somehow with rhetoric and exhortation to control the use of and abuse, but they keep on abusing ex parte. As a matter of fact, maybe there should be a general direction. Conditions for ex parte should be more explicit and very narrow. Many of the issues the issue ex parte can wait for 7 more days, 3 more days. In fact, sometimes judges in the US can give a 3 hours, step down for hearing, especially when people can fly in, people can even through Zoom make an interlocution to why those orders should not be granted. So I think that both lack of intelligence, lack of proper understanding, and maybe lack of the judicial craft and corruption. These judges have continually abused this, especially at the level of high courts. State high courts and federal high court, and something should be done about this.
Something has to be done about that. When you think about it. He also mentioned that the judiciary has become subservient to the executive. Do you agree with this assessment? And if so, what implications does it have for the rule of law in Nigeria? The judiciary is supposed to be the last hope of the common man, isn't it?
I agree with him that largely, yes, there's a high level of subservience, if you like, to executive branch. And that, look, the notion of judicial supremacy, as articulated Justice Marshall and others, and down to our own Supreme Court judges, is that the judiciary is the one that backstops the constitutional separation of power and allocation of power. The idea of democracy is that state power is constrained, can only be used legitimately according to law. That's rule of law. Now, what that requires in practical terms is that judges themselves should have the courage, the independence to declare even against it. Now, but when judges themselves, for example, when they appoint new Supreme Court justices, the governors of those states will hold a party for the new Supreme Court justice and then invite people. How can a governor hold a party for a Supreme Court justices, a private party, not part of the ceremonies of judicial elevation? But this is private party, beer, food, people are there enjoying, and this is the same judge who will sit in judgment over the government in cases about human rights, in cases of abuse of executive power. So I think that the Nigerian judiciary has driven itself into the claptrap of the executive. In the past, people don't even come near judges' houses. Today, it's very easy to see that see judges in parties, see judges commingling freely with politicians. So judges have power, but they have left their power and become like the executive in the state of Nigeria. They have made themselves to become subservient to executive power, and that's why today justice is derailed in Nigeria largely.
Doctor, I wish we could continue because there's so much to talk about. There's also the budget discrepancies that budget has just raised alarm about, but I wish we have enough time. But here's where we have to close the curtain. Dr. Sam Amadi, many thanks for coming in. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Dr. Sam is Executive Director for the Abuja School of Political Thought. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, there's plenty more. Stay here. And you're welcome back. And it's off to the capital where a bill seeking the approval of over 1.2 trillion naira for capital projects in the Federal Capital Territory budget from the administration's statutory revenue fund account for the year 2025 has passed the second reading in the House of Representatives. The amount, which is part of the total sum of about 1.7 trillion naira proposed for the 2025 fiscal year, was passed following a motion raised by the majority leader of the House, Julius Uhubore, and a voice vote by the majority of lawmakers during plenary. Also, the sum of about 150 billion naira, which was proposed for personal costs, with an additional 343 billion naira earmarked for overhead costs, passed the second reading.
The bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Federal Capital Territory Administration's Statutory Revenue Fund or the Federal Capital Territory Administration account the total sum of 1,783,828,392 naira only, of which the sum of 150,353,906,168 naira only is your personal costs. Honorable David, you are welcome. And the sum of 343,777,448 naira only is for overhead costs, while the balance of 1,89,690,124,776 naira only is for capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory Abuja this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. Those have it.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kokore, has tasked judges of the lower courts to uphold integrity and ethical standards of the judiciary. The Chief Judge of the Apex Court gave the charge while inducting newly appointed magistrates and judges of Sharia and customary courts at the National Judicial Institute in Abuja. Our correspondent Joshua Marayi has the details.
It was the opening ceremony of the induction course for newly appointed magistrates and judges of Sharia and customary courts at the National Judicial Institute in Abuja. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kokore, represented by Justice Chidebere Uwa, charged the new members of the bench to guard their integrity jealously and resist any conduct that could compromise the ethical and professional standards of the judiciary.
Judicial independence is not just a constitutional imperative. It is the bedrock of public trust in the justice system. I also urge you to guard your integrity jealously, be vigilant against corruption in any guise, and allow your conduct to reflect the highest standards of ethics and professionalism. Avoid perception of bias or undue interest in any matter before you. Approach your duties with humility and a clear understanding of the immense trust placed in you by Nigerians.
The administrator of the National Judicial Institute, Justice Salisu Abdullahi, urged the new judges to strike a balance, resolving disputes swiftly while upholding fairness, impartiality, and thoroughness.
And we rest assured that in view of your proximity to the grassroots, your decades will often be filled with large volume of cases. You must therefore strive to create a healthy balance, one that guarantees the resolution of disputes within a reasonable time, one of holding the highest standard of gentleness, impartiality, and fairness. Understand that the position we now acquire hold paramount significance within the very foundation of our judicial structure.
Justice Abdullahi also revealed that the Institute will soon embark on a nationwide assessment tour to evaluate how its training programs are impacting judicial performance. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imalayi.
Draw photographs, please.
Nigeria may be blessed with one of the world's largest gas reserves, but the cost to the environment continues to raise serious concerns. With the country accounting for 16% of sub-Saharan Africa's emissions between 2010 and 2020, stakeholders say more must be done to monitor and reduce emissions. At a workshop in Abuja, experts gathered to explore how data-driven tools can be used to hold both government and industry players accountable. News Center Sagir Ibrahim reports on this push for transparency amid Nigeria's ambitious climate goals. Take a look.
Data shows that Nigeria holds the world's 9th largest gas reserves, yet it is also a major methane emitter responsible for 16% of sub-Saharan Africa's methane emissions over a decade. Despite several policies and pledges, poor regulatory enforcement and the absence of reliable, transparent data continue to frustrate mitigation efforts. It is against this backdrop that the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development and its partners convened stakeholders to chart a path forward.
We don't have baselines to track where we started from and where we're going, and whether we've achieved any of our goals, and place this sort of baseline so that this is not going to be a repeat of the past where we just set targets and we never know whether or not we actually achieve them.
The workshop is designed to build the capacity of participants on how to use data to drive accountability, promote transparency, and improve environmental governance.
This time around, we are introducing a tool to help in their accountability drive, to help in their advocacy drive as well. We've had that capacity building with them. So it is important that they are still the same set of people to drive the conversation.
The tool being introduced is a policy tracker, which they hope will revolutionize data-driven methane emissions reporting in Nigeria.
You can't make decisions without data to back up your decision. When it's really available, you get what the companies are actually emitting. every year. So that can inform decisions around which particular company is doing well, which other company is not making that stride.
Nigeria has pledged a 30% cut in overall emissions by 2030 and a 60% reduction in oil and gas emissions by 2031. But stakeholders warn these goals risk remaining on paper without stronger tracking and enforcement mechanisms.
With growing calls for transparency in emissions reporting, the introduction of a policy tracker, although still in its early stages, offers renewed hope for stronger corporate compliance and public accountability. Stakeholders believe the real impact will depend on how faithfully government and extractive companies uphold their emission reduction commitments in the years ahead. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Shell Petroleum Development Company, SPDC, recently completed its sale to Renaissance, a consortium of 5 companies, as part of its strategy to simplify its presence in Nigeria, focusing on deep water and integrated gas positions. As the company holds its annual general meeting in London, a civil rights group, Kacha Women Development, is accusing Shell of evading responsibility for environmental damages in the Niger Delta. The group staged a march to the residential area of Shell in Port Harcourt, demanding a proper cleanup of oil-polluted sites in the Niger Delta. Shell's divestment has sparked fears that the company will escape liabilities for the extensive damage caused by its operations, leaving local communities to deal with the consequences.
Are calling on Shell today that they cannot divest without cleaning up the Niger Delta. Shell cannot divest without restoring our ecosystem, because the women of the Niger Delta are going through a lot. All we got from Shell right from 1956, that they started oil exploration in the Niger Delta, is death sentence. Our youth can no longer have a good, better work. Our women can no longer go to farm. Shell, you must clean up your mess before you leave the Niger Delta.
Shell understood divestment as leaving their mess for another company to come and continue to suffer from the effect of their mess. That's why we're here today to demand that Shell shall own up, Shell shall pay, and Shell shall restore the environment that was degraded before they think of their way of divestment.
I speak for the students out there who also witnessed the cost and the impact of this oil exploration in Niger Delta. What we gather here today is graduation in what is happening in Niger Delta. So what we are demanding for them to pay reparation of the impact that is happening in Niger Delta.
Shell's PLC sales of its Nigerian subsidiary SPDC to the Renaissance Group without any public commitment or funding to clean up the vast oil pollution caused by decades of Shell's operation in the Niger Delta, and without compensating the hundreds of thousands of people whose lives and livelihood this pollution has affected, is ridiculous, shocking, and a show of unaccountability.
The Corporate Affairs Commission says that it is partnering with the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System to launch a data verification service aimed at improving the ease of doing business in the country. The Registrar General of the Commission, Hussaini Magaji, while briefing journalists in Abuja, says that the newly unveiled interface will enable super agents to retrieve data from the Commission's database at the request of their clients. Magaji adds that the integration will allow banks, embassies, and other institutions to modify or transform the data into specific formats required by their clients.
This is an opportunity given to our customers in a more dynamic way. That is because of the advancement and the technology. We're now out giving technology-savvy companies opportunity to have integration with the Corporate Affairs Commission, meaning that all activities that you can do it with the Corporate Affairs Commission, you can equally do it through them. NIFs, we have started with them. These are pest data. We have started with NIFs because of their credibility. When you are looking for information like authentication or verification or validation of any record, you can do it through NIFs. at fees as an opportunity for embassies, opportunity for banks now. No need of manual or semi-manual. They can achieve it through a fully technology-savvy company like NIFS.
We've been working with the CAC for many years, and we're very, very pleased that today has come. And it's really a culmination of all the efforts we've put together to connect both institutions to allow people to validate and verify data efficiently, securely, and within the remits of the data protection laws.
You're watching news now on News Central Television. Coming up, Tanzania's opposition leader appears in court for treason charge. We'll tell you all about this and more just after the break. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. It's off to Tanzania, where its opposition leader, Tundu Lissu, has appeared in court on a treason charge that carries a potential death sentence, vowing to continue his fight for reforms. Supporters cheered the opposition leader as he entered the courtroom on Monday, wearing a No Reforms, No Elections shirt and holding a draft of a proposed new constitution. His Chadema party has been barred from contesting October elections after demanding electoral reforms. The case has drawn regional attention. Kenyan rights activists, including former Chief Justice David Maraga, have been detained at the airport while attempting to attend the trial. Lissu's lawyer said the case has been adjourned to June 2nd as investigations continue. Meanwhile, the president of the country has warned foreign observers not to interfere in Tanzania's internal affairs. And now joining us is Martin Mavenjina. He's a senior program advisor for transitional justice at the Kenya Human Rights Commission. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on, Martin. In your view, what does this arrest of the opposition leader in Tanzania signify for the state of democracy and political freedom in Tanzania?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. The unlawful arrest of Tundu Lissu is a dark time for a progressive country like Tanzania. Tanzania has been one of the East African countries that has been a beacon of democracy for the rest of the East African region. But the unlawful arrest and the purported trial of Honorable Tundu Lissu for treason and publication of false. It beats the whole purpose of why why the government of Tanzania is afraid of electoral reforms. The charges that are being placed before him are actually illegal, and what is rather surprising is that the Tanzanian authorities have refused Kenyan human rights activists to access to actually observe the trial process in Dar es Salaam. As we speak today, 6 Kenyan human rights defenders, including a former Chief Justice, Dr. William Mutunga, and 5 other Kenyans, including Senior Counsel Martha Karua, were unlawfully detained and deported back to Kenya.
And I mean, considering
yes, as we speak.
Right, considering the detention of this Kenyan activist in Tanzania over the weekend, what does this suggest about regional trends in suppressing dissent or activism? Because this are other individuals that are not citizens of the country but being detained.
Tanzania has actually slipped into the league of dictators or dictatorial regimes, and the reason why I say that is primarily because as of yesterday evening, we saw on live television President Samia Suluhu confirmed that she actually would not allow any foreign elements or any human rights activists into the country. Now, unfortunately, that confirms that that she has been at the heart of all these entire directives. And what, by dint of her statement yesterday, she's actually emboldened security agencies. And as we speak, 2 human rights activists are actually being detained by Tanzanian police. Boniface Mwangi, a prominent Kenyan human rights activist, and Agatha Atuhaire, who is from Uganda. They had all traveled to observe, stand in solidarity with Team Lusu and observe the trial process. Now, if I may, the East African Community Treaty does provide for free movement of all East African citizens. So a Ugandan, a Kenyan, or a Tanzanian can freely move and observe the court process within the jurisdiction. But the actions by the government of Tanzania have not only breached the provisions contained within the East African Community Treaty, but a host of other international instruments, including the Tanzanian Constitution.
All right.
What these actions mean is that it will simply mean that Tanzania has slipped into a dictatorial regime.
Well, Martin, I must say thank you. I wish there was enough time for us to continue, but this is where we have to draw the curtains. All eyes are on the courts and also on the citizens being detained, Kenyan citizens, and also all eyes on Tanzania as the court's case has now been adjourned to June 9th. Martin Mevenjina joined us here from Kenya to give us a bit of insight following the detention of Tanzania's opposition leader. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, we head to Libya. But first, that break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Shocking developments out of Libya, where at least 58 unidentified bodies have been discovered in the capital, Tripoli. Authorities say the grim discovery was made on Monday inside a morgue refrigerator at the Abu Salim Accidents Hospital. The facility is located in the densely populated Abu Salim district, long known as a stronghold of the stabilization support apparatus, a powerful militia group. According to a statement from Libya's Interior Ministry, the find followed a formal report from hospital staff. The Central Bank of Nigeria, at the end of the 300th Monetary Policy Committee meeting, has agreed to hold interest rate at 27.5% for the second time this year. The bank, under Governor Olayemi Cardoso, had steadily raised the rate from 11.5% in 2022, including 6 hikes in 2024 alone, amounting to a cumulative 875 basis points. Cardoso said the committee's decision to maintain the rate was unanimous and driven by recent positive macroeconomic indicators. Rivers and Lagos states have swept gold medals in weightlifting event at the ongoing 2024 National Sports Festival in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Ruth Nyong of Rivers State and the African champion Omolola Onome Didi of Lagos State were the outstanding performers. Both weightlifters won 4 gold medals and 2 silvers for their states in the women's 49 kg and 55 kg categories. Meanwhile, 2023 African Games gold medalist King Kalu of Cross River State bagged 3 gold medals for Cross River with a total lift of 215 kg, comprising of 94 kg lift in snatch and 121 kg lift in clean and jerk in the men's 55 kg class. In the women's 45 kg, Esther Amarachi Chijioke of the invited junior athletes as IJA captured 2 gold medals in the clean and jerk, and total with a lift of 82 kg and 146 kg respectively, and she added a silver medal in the snatch with a lift of 64 kg. Here I am, impossible to even lift myself. Well, that's all we can take at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some major stories. Protesters have broken out in Ibadan after police officers chasing suspected internet fraudsters allegedly shot students heading for WAEC examinations. Trade Union Congress have picketed a finance ministry in Abuja over unpaid allowances and poor welfare practices. And we also told you that at least 58 unidentified corpses have been retrieved from Libyan hospital after militia leader's death in clashes. Now do remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, on Go TV channel 23, Star Times channel 274. Find us on Apple TV, and you can stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Bye for now.